This is Beyond the Stand, a podcast exploring the evolving voices, values, and practices in music education. I'm your host, Jeremy Bryant, a high school popular music educator and Master of Music in Music Education candidate at Belmont University. This podcast is part of my personal and professional journey to answer one big question: how can we provide excellent, rigorous, and relevant music education through the lens of popular music? In each episode, I speak with educators, students, and leaders who are shaping what music education looks like today and what it can be tomorrow. Whether you're rooted in traditional ensembles, teaching modern band, or somewhere in between, you're invited to this conversation. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Beyond the Stand, where we step away from the podium to explore how music education is evolving to meet the needs of today's learners. I'm your host, Jeremy Bryant, and in this special two-part conversation, we're diving into a movement that's reshaping the sound and the soul of the music classroom. Joining me today are two leaders in this work: Dr. Steve Holley, president of the Association for Popular Music Education, and Dr. Chris Burns, a fellow board member of APME and respected voice in research and practice around inclusive, student-centered music education. In this first episode, we're going to explore the why. Why does popular music deserve a place in the classroom? Why does it matter, not just as a genre, but as a pathway for student growth, engagement, and equity? So, Steve, let's begin with you. Your journey, what led you to be into music education, and when did popular music become central to your work as a teacher and leader?
First off, thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate it. I think for me, I in no way, shape, or form wanted to become a music educator because my mother was. My father was also a teacher. So education early on was, in terms of getting into education as a profession, was absolutely not. I've seen the front side, the back side. No, thank you. And then, oddly enough, as I moved to Memphis, became a professional musician, got a part-time gig in Colorado at a school, and said, well, it's okay, it's part-time. I'm still a professional musician, and this is my day gig. Teaching is my day gig, my side gig. And that program, as we started popular music, it was originally 2 jazz bands, but as we added popular music, based on what the kids wanted, the program started to grow and grow and grow, and all of a sudden, I quite literally fell into teaching. And so I've been teaching for 30 years now. I have, as you said, I have the degree in music learning and teaching, and nothing else that I would rather be doing. And so, going to the second part of your question, it's really a matter for me of it's what the students wanted. It's how can I take music education tends to talk a lot about student voice and choice and inclusivity, and we tend to talk a lot about it without actually doing the thing we're talking about. It's like, but we're having the conversation. Yeah, but what conversation with intent? Great. Conversation without moving forward, that's another thing entirely. So that was the idea, is how can I take what they want to do and incorporate it into the school day? And honestly, that's when the program exploded on so many levels.
Wow, that's really great. So Chris, you've done extensive work in both teaching and researching popular music education. Can you share what drew you to this field and why it's become a focus of your advocacy?
Definitely, yeah. And again, like Steve said, thank you for having us here. I had dreams of becoming a rock star myself as a kid. I was going to be on the road. I was going to play drums for the greatest bands. It's going to be amazing. And then kind of through my middle school, high school career, I was watching my music educators, and I was like, I really like what they do. I enjoy that they're sharing their passion. And for me, passion is that really big word, and I'll talk about it in just a little bit as well. But when I got to university, at that point, I was marching band. I'm going to have the best marching band in the country. We're going to be drum corps style. My drum line's going to be amazing. We're going to have 40 in the drum line. Then I took an elementary methods class, and I said to myself, wait, hold on. I can have fun all day. I can play games with kids all day. And so I jumped into the elementary classroom. And in the first few years of teaching, I'm more certified, doing all these things. And the kids loved what was happening, but there was something missing for both them and for me personally. And I started to incorporate popular music in my teaching. So I'd take whatever songs happened to be on the radio or what was popular at the time, and we'd do these songs either just as a choir or in an Orff arrangement that I'd make. And the more I did that, the more kids were drawn to my programs. And so I went from an Orff ensemble my first 2 or 3 years of like 20 or 30 kids to 120, which that growth is incredible and it was wonderful. And then a few years later, I thought to myself, what if I just start like a rock band with these kids? I have elementary kids that are interested in doing things. They like singing. Some of them have been asking me about playing guitar. Some of them already play keyboard. And so I started a small rock band. And from there, with about 30 or 40 kids, it kind of blossomed into what I have now, actually, which is Osceola Rocks. And at any given point, I have 15 to 30 kids in that group, and it goes throughout the year. And so the popular music, what I found, not just in researching outside of my personal area, but also with what I've done, is the two worlds can coexist. You can have an amazing band program and an amazing popular music program. And in fact, I truly feel that having that popular music program will just increase the rest of the programs that most people hold so dearly onto. And then you're also reaching that other 80% of your population through all that, the student-centered aspect of it, because trying to teach a popular program like a traditional director does not work. And I found out the hard way, because I had in my mind, I'm in charge, we're going to play what I want to play, you're going to listen to everything I have to say because I have the microphone, right? And it did not work. As soon as I flipped the script and said, hey, what do you guys want to do?
Yes.
Right.
Hey, why don't you two go work over there, work together on this part. All of a sudden, the kids were excelling at such a faster rate. And it's just something that seems natural now that has happened. And like Steve said, we've been talking about this for a long time, and that's what we've been doing. Finding out that more and more people are doing the thing is very validating. And it's great also to see the students coming up through this process. And that's kind of what I've been seeing a lot lately. So,
yeah. And I think that really rolls into the next question here. I mean, as music educators, we make decisions that reflect what we value. So what is it about popular music that you believe offers something essential for students today?
It's a good question. I no offense to you, I don't know if it's the right question, because I think any music is educative.
Great. Any
art is educative. We can learn. I can teach, and students can learn, whether I'm doing a Bach piece or whether we're analyzing a Tito Puente, something from Tito Puente or Celia Cruz or Tower of Power or Stevie Wonder. It's all music. It all contains the same 12 notes and the same chords and things, and a lot of times the same structure, 4 7 3 6 2 5 1, and then going on from there. So it's another dialect.
Right.
If we talk, a lot of folks will talk about music being a second language. We could certainly dive into that. I would say the absolute, at the very least, if you do follow that idea, is that popular music is just another dialect.
Right.
That is, frankly, an important dialect. And for me, the idea is, how can I help my students become musically fluent in not just a single dialect,
right,
but in multiple dialects, so they can have those multiple experiences, whether they want to be in band and also in concert band and in the jazz band, if they want to be in the orchestra and also play bass in the jazz combo, or they want to sing in choir and also sing some Jill Scott or Aretha Franklin or Beyonce in a popular ensemble. So for me, it's really, and one thing you'll probably also hear us talk a lot about is both and. So, correct. And again, as we mentioned, I come from a band director world. My mom was a 35-year career band director. So same thing, came to school as a trumpet major, was in the marching band, all that. So coming from that paradigm, I have all those experiences, and it can be scary to change the way that we've always done things from a tradition perspective. But again, it's how do we not necessarily blow up what we do, but by becoming more inclusive, it doesn't mean we're becoming exclusive above others. We're creating more opportunities, which doesn't necessarily thin everything out. It just gives the students more opportunities to make music. What's wrong with that?
Not a thing. Not a thing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That was all correct.
Woo!
Yeah, easy, right? No, I completely agree. I don't think it's an if. I don't think it's an or. I think it's all and, because what we're trying to do, and I truly believe Steve is in agreement here. We're not trying to take away from. We're not trying to say that this is better than this. We're trying to say this and this are both valuable resources for kids, because every single person should be involved in music some way, whether that's playing, listening, dancing to, acting out, whatever it is. Everybody should be involved in music. So if that means that your involvement is in choir, if that means your involvement is in the orchestra, if that means your involvement is playing drums, whatever that is, you should be involved in music. So this is just another avenue that works really well to involve a large number of students who might not feel that concert band is their way. They might not feel that singing arias are for them, but they love to sing.
Right.
So that to me is kind of where the popular music world lies, is we're building the number of participants in music.
And just add on that very quickly, and even if it is a vocalist who may not feel comfortable with cantatas or arias, so they're going to the more popular route, I've had a number of students will play Barry in the jazz band and bass in the R&B band. Right. So again, what's wrong with giving students, as long as it works out with their schedule, again, another long conversation is how can we work it out to give those students more experiences in music, as opposed to here are your three choices.
Right.
A, B, C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, what we're talking about now is access.
Correct.
We're opening the door for students who wouldn't otherwise come to the band room. I'll tell this story. My listeners will be familiar by this point. They're probably tired of hearing this story. But in my first position, I was in a very rural school in southern Middle Tennessee, 6th through 12th grade, probably about 400 students in that range. And in my dream, I came from a 7 through 12 high school. I lucked into getting into college for music. I happened to click the right things, fill out the right forms. Nobody was guiding me. So my dream was to be in that situation. And there was a homecoming event where there was a homecoming attendant, senior, and they announced in the gym, this person's going to go to UAH and major in guitar performance. And I'd never met him. And this is the end of the school year. This is our basketball home. So This is the end of the school year. He's going to go major in music, and I've never met him in a school this size. I went to the principal and said, what's going on? Why don't I know this guy? Well, he's not going to be in band. You have band. And that's what flipped the switch for me. I was like, no, I have music. Mm-hmm. And we want to get as many kids in this school as are involved in music in my band room.
Absolutely.
So that's when I bought Squire and Epiphone guitars, with my little bit of budget and a few amps, and then dug a drum set out of the closet and brought those guys in. Yeah. And so that's kind of started this journey for me. But yeah, just the access is amazing. Popular music, when we talk about this access, it's often the soundtrack to students' lives. So how does inviting that music into the classroom deepen their connection to learning and their own personal identity?
I think bringing that music into the classroom is a great stepping stone to finding out who they are. I truly believe that you can look at somebody's playlist and kind of understand their psyche, right? Whether it's on one side or the other of, I listen to this music because I'm angry, I listen to this music because I'm sad. That doesn't really matter, but the purpose behind listening to that music is that it gives them a feeling, right? Listening to music emotes. It allows us to feel something. So bringing popular music into a classroom, whether it's a traditional classroom, after school program, whatever it is, you're allowing these students who may not have that opportunity to feel or may not have an opportunity to create, to do those things, and at many levels. So the person who just started day one can't really play anything, but is kind of learning keyboard, to the person that has been taking lessons forever in a classical realm and is now playing popular music and kind of learning what chord changes are, to the person who is a pop icon already. All of these people, the same thing they have is their passion for music and their passion to express music through themselves. And with my students, I tell them all the time, that their instruments are just an extension of them. The instrument's not going to make them better. It's them. They're gonna be better because they're allowing themselves to flow through it. And so bringing in popular music, again, is just another way that these students who may not have opportunities to emote or thrive creatively to fall into that area and really express themselves in a way that can help them in the long run, emotionally, physically, all the things. So
truly, it's ownership. The students already have skin in the game when they bring in tunes that they like. I don't know many students who regularly include Holst or Brahms, or maybe they do, God bless them, or Ellington or Bird or Clifford Brown, on their playlist. Although that, I certainly noticed a few kids were leaning towards Mingus and some of those at my school. But I think that's the biggest thing, is that when students come in and they already have skin in the game, it's like, oh, I know this song. Oh, I know the harmonies on this song, or I know X, Y, Z. And it gives them a chance to bring a little bit of themselves into the classroom. And I think education, not just music education in general, does a pretty good job, and this isn't good from an educative standpoint, but a pretty good job of sifting kids' personal lives the moment they walk in the door. They're just, they have a number, they have a name, they have an assigned seat, and they a lot of times have to leave their personalities at the door. Dress code, again, something else, other things we could go into, but that's what it is for me, is the students already have skin in the game, and if that is an avenue to providing ownership of the ensemble and the learning process once they get in. I think for me, again, whether it's pop music or just music, it's how do we change what we've always done from a director-centered standpoint, from a teacher-centered standpoint, to a student-centered standpoint, to where we're helping them become the critical thinkers. We're helping them craft their learning process. Right. Is for me. That's why I think one of my the biggest reasons why I want to include, and have included 30 years now, pop music in the classroom.
And to piggyback off that,
please,
bringing students' musical tastes into the classroom also helps you lead them into some things they don't know. So you can take Alicia Keys, you can take Jill Scott, and then tie that back to jazz and tie it back to R&B before those two artists. And you could tie it all the way back to the early 1900s and where that came from, and tie it further back to where that came from. And you just keep going back and back. And now you've created this whole historical masterpiece of music, and you're introducing the students to music they would have never heard just because they didn't know. And so you're using your musical knowledge and sharing it with those students. And then also saying, well, you really like how these changes happen in this song. Here's another piece from this composer from 1752 that uses something very similar, and tying it into there. And that's kind of where I go back to what I said originally, where the popular music aspect can only build programs. It doesn't take away, which I think is a large fear. At least many of my teachers in my district, a large fear is that your program is going to take away from my program. It's not. When we're teaching students how to record in a studio, we're teaching them those techniques, and they need to have a trumpet. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to band to find someone that plays trumpet. And then maybe, because they make friends with that kid, well, I want to play trumpet too, because I know what I have in my head and this isn't really working. Right. So you're adding to that. So the bringing of popular music really does help allow the kids to be themselves, like you said, and it kind of pushes away that whole cemetery row in a classroom, you're just a number kind of thing that we can go into great detail about.
Yeah, it starts from a point of, this is what the student knows, and then growing from, great, based on what you know, let's expand that and go from there. As opposed to coming in with a blank slate, you now have a starting point and go, oh, so you like XYZ. Have you ever listened to ABC? Right. And then moving back from there, go, oh, no, I haven't. And then, just like Chris said, we all have this lineage of music that goes back as far back as you want to go. And that's, for me, how has been incredibly productive and incredibly resourceful in terms of, I mean, that's how we all learn, and that's how we all develop our own musical voices, is by studying the masters, whether those masters are Beethoven and Mozart, or John Coltrane, and Lee Morgan, or whether it is Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
And everyone in between. Everyone in between.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, we keep coming back to, and this has been in other interviews I've done as well, on kind of from the traditional side and from the popular music side is both and. And I think as humans, we're kind of hardwired if something different comes along. I think I could think of in my stressed out band director mind of going, oh, there's something else I've got to do, and totally rework how I'm thinking everything. And I think it doesn't have to be a total reworking. It's an incorporating. It is that both and, and we're seeing it actually grow programs like you guys have talked about.
Truly.
Do you guys have any more thoughts on this idea of both and well, let's actually go this way. The reason I'm doing these interviews and things like this is because I know I have questions, and I know that other people out there, if I've got questions, then there's other people out there as well. So, what are, in your experience, some criticisms that you have heard to popular music besides it takes away from our programs, and then how do you go about in a positive way saying, hey, it's not actually that, but it's something more positive that we can experience out of this that aids us more, much like it can actually add to our program rather than taking away from it. So what's some criticism you've heard, and then how have you gone about I don't want to say combating, but just informing and educating those criticisms?
For me, what I take a look at, it's kind of a history lesson. I'll try and get to this super quickly because I know everyone wants to hang out and listen to a history lesson on podcast. So music education has a long history of exclusion. If we go back to, and everyone's sorry for those of you who are music teachers, we're going back to our music ed history class. If we go back to the mid-part of the 19th century, American music education was choral based. And that's what it was, because that is real teaching. That is real music. We can use that to teach students music. During the Civil War, we had a number of little brass bands pop up. And after the Civil War, we had all these musicians who frankly needed gigs. So towns and cities throughout the country built gazebos where those bands for the next 40, 50 years leading up to John Philip Sousa could play could play songs to bring their communities together after the Civil War, and that became the entertainment. Oh, we're going down this weekend to go hear the brass band at the gazebo. My town in rural Arkansas had one. It was a band director named Otto Malling who moved here from Germany. So that was going on for years. And then in 1922-23, we had something called the American Band Competition. Mm-hmm. And what happened there is a few schools who happened to start including brass bands in their schools had a competition. So Conn-Selmer could sell some instruments is basically what it came down to. So we have
capitalism.
So we have the introduction of capitalism and also competition into music education. Thanks, folks. But at that time, the choral folks lost their mind.
Yeah.
This isn't real music. This is entertainment. This is, you're playing instruments. No, if God wanted you to make music with something other than your voice, he would have, you would have come out of the womb with a euphonium. So choral folks lost their mind. You go fast forward 50 years, and to around the late 1960s, early 1970s, jazz comes on the scene. North Texas, Berkeley, NYU, a lot of schools start developing jazz programs. Again, now we have the choral folks and the concert band folks lose their mind.
Yes.
This isn't real music. This is, it's black music. It's improvised. It's not written down. It's one person to a part. This isn't acceptable. It's not good for schools. Fast forward another 50 years. We're having the same conversation now to where choral folks and concert band folks and now jazz folks as well. And again, this isn't, I'm saying everybody. It's not that, but sometimes a general prevailing thought is, well, no, that doesn't work either. And it's kind of this idea of the oppressed becoming the oppressor every 50 years in a cyclical manner. And so that's one thing that I think that we as a field need to grapple with is that whenever something new comes along, like you were saying earlier, it's our nature to go, oh no, wait, we don't live in a both and world. We live in an either or world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either choir or band or jazz. But I absolutely believe all of these can peacefully coexist and should, to the benefit of all of them, because again, it makes the experience richer for all of us and also helps us as teachers to continue being lifelong learners.
Yeah. And it's really important to that point. And we actually had this exact conversation yesterday, which is kind of funny, but it's very important that we don't become those gatekeepers as popular music educators, because then what happens? Whatever the next thing is, all of a sudden is not good. We want to make sure that we're opening to all. And I think one of the benefits of popular music education, it's not specific.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Ariana Grande. It's not just Hawthorne Heights. It's end. It includes electronic music. It includes, I don't know, underwater basket weaving music. Make something up. It includes that. Whatever is the music of the vernacular onto whatever is the music on the radio, right? So I think it's important as educators, we enforce is a harsh word, but enforce, not enforcing.
Mm-hmm.
And combating other educators who are gatekeepers of the current traditional realm, I don't think works either. We can't combat. I think we have to find understanding. We have to build conversation. We have to build bridges in that, and not try to say your way is wrong, here's the right way, but here's how both of our ways can coexist. Here's how our way actually feeds your way. Here's how your way feeds our way. Some of my best musicians came from jazz band, not just from me teaching them. Some of these schools built their programs because I introduced them to guitar, keyboard, drums, whatever it is. And then they went on and joined band and play trumpet now. So we have to show them that both worlds can coexist. It takes a lot on our end of saying, oh, you have a concert tonight? That's okay. You need to practice for that concert. We need to say on our end and be, quote unquote, the bigger people of, go ahead. You have this concert coming up, practice that. We'll work on our stuff a little bit. Knowing that they're going to get better regardless.
Right.
Whichever side, and I don't want to call them sides, but whichever realm they're in, they're growing as musicians. So don't gatekeep on the our music is the right music, and don't gatekeep on these are my students, not yours.
Right.
I think trying to build that community is the best way forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think I keep coming back to, I think of guys like Rick Beato on YouTube, reviewing the Spotify top 10.
Right.
And, complaining a lot of times about how the lack of creativity or what have you. And I'm thinking, man, if those kids, the people that are making music that's making money right now, if they would have had access to music education, like they just wanted to make music, so they figured out how to do it by themselves. It turns out it's a way that people like, and it ends up making them a lot of money. There are very musically educated people out there making music right now, but there are also people who just figured it out. I'm thinking if those people would have had access to, been included in music education, what the entertainment product would be like out there if students were included and learned rather than just having to figure it out themselves.
Music doesn't have to be difficult, doesn't have to be complicated to be good music.
Right.
Music doesn't have to be complicated to be able to be integrated into an educational setting. If we go down that path, okay, so then we need to stop talking about the blues because it's only 3 chords.
Right.
So we can throw that right out.
And it just repeats itself.
And it just goes over and over. It's 12 bars. Come on. Modal music. Sorry, we can no longer do, Miles Davis kind of blue. A lot of that out. Oh, really? No, jazz, now that we look at it, it's really just a bunch of 2-5-1s. It's a bunch of cyclical 2-5-1s. Yeah. That's kind of the same thing over and over. Yeah, we can't use that either. We could, again, we could probably take a look and analyze, it just comes down to, for me, it doesn't have to be difficult to be not only good music or music that can be used for educational purpose, but just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, just sitting there, again, as a bass player, just sitting, I don't care that on a James Brown tune, just sitting there and locking in with the drummer. And that's the key. Or when I'm playing upright a Bach cello suite, I get as much joy doing one or the other, or rather, kind of the theme of the conversation is I enjoy doing both.
Right. And I think there's some danger in the YouTube trend of saying this is good and this isn't good. And nothing against any of these YouTubers. I watch the videos all the time.
Right.
Very entertaining. And I learn things and I find things out through them. But there is a danger of what is good music in these and what creativity is. That's one of those boil my blood moments when somebody tries to tell me what creativity is, because that's the antithesis of what creativity is. Creativity doesn't have a definition. Creativity is what it is. It's one of those omniscient, Steve's creativity versus my creativity versus your creativity are very different things.
Right.
So when somebody says that's not creative, I get very angry, because it is creative, because that person did it.
Right.
Whether they took a step or ran a marathon, they both moved. Right. So any form of movement is creativity. And I've fallen into this trap before as well. And I have conversations with my students all the time about what good music and what bad music is. To me, I don't like this music. That doesn't mean it's bad music.
Right.
Because you might love this music. And we're going back to the traditional versus contemporary type thing here.
Right.
That's bad music. This is good music because this was written down. And because, again, 60 years ago, when things weren't written down for jazz, it was bad music because it wasn't written down. But now jazz is written down, so go figure. But go back even further. Music was never written down.
Right.
It was passed on through oral tradition. So when did that become bad music? When it was the first. So as amazing as these YouTube channels are and TikTok and everything like that of sharing ideas, I think we as educators have to be very safe to not fall into the trap of this is the right one, this is the wrong one, because they're all right and they're all wrong.
Kind of feeds into that. What we talked about, our nature is to either or.
Right.
It feeds that. That's really great. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, so I think all these are great things. This is a good point to push things along for the next episode. So thank you both so much for being here. If you're hearing thunder in the background, it's because we are at the APME conference in Memphis, Tennessee, and it is storming outside. So
there is a rolling.
That's right. It's because we're talking about good things, shaking the earth here. So from student identity to musical rigor, what we've heard today reinforces the idea that popular music education isn't just about changing what we teach, it's about rethinking why we teach. In our next episode, we'll dive into the practical side of this work, how to build and sustain these programs, how to support teachers at all experience levels, and how to navigate the cultural shift within our schools and communities. Stay with us for part 2 of this important conversation with Dr. Steve Holley and Dr. Chris Burns. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Stand. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow the show and share it with a fellow educator. You can find episode summaries, resources, and future updates at beyondthestand.com. This podcast is part of my capstone project at Belmont University, and I'm excited to keep learning and sharing along the way. Until next time, keep creating, keep adapting, and keep making music that means something.